slightly different, maybe connected.
Complementary.
We're here
We're
because we're
merging.
integrating these two services to.
Okay, okay. Some of you may recognize Liz from her time in the State House.
Committee assistant.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Bill Botso in House Commerce and Michael Marcotte. My dreams.
She visited. I remember.
Yeah, I was like, come on.
I visited that committee when she was.
Mike did a great job today, buddy.
He did. He's the best. I mean, like, you guys are all the best.
So we'll do a quick round of introductions and then let the so I'm David Durfee, and I represent Shaftesbury and Sunderland and Glastonbury, Bennington County.
I represent Windsor 4, which is the towns of Barnard, Wallingford, and Bridgewater. Hi, Esme Cole, represent Windsor 6, which is Hartford.
John O'Brien, I represent Royal and Concord.
Mike Rice, represent the Bennington Rutland District. It's Danby, Dorset, Landgrove, Mount Tabor, and Peru.
And I'm David Templeman. I represent Barton, Brownington, and Westmore.
Jed Lipsky, Lamoille 1, Stowe.
Do we have anyone on Zoom, Laura?
No.
We've got Laura Rich, the committee assistant. We have a few members who are not able to join us this afternoon. But if you'd like to introduce yourselves and tell us who you're with. And
I'm Liz First Raddock. I am the instructor and coordinator of the legislative internship program.
And I'm Jack Grzinski, professor of political science, director of the Vermont Legislative Research Service. That does it, right?
That's sweet.
So should we just give our spiel?
yeah, is there something that
Why we're here?
look at presentation wise, or are we just going to hear?
We have two different handouts. Liz sent one to Laura, and I forgot to do that. I brought a paper copy.
Okay.
I'll give a little background, talk about the VLRS and how we got to this point, and Liz will talk about the internship program and talk about how we're trying to improve both of these to provide better service for you all. Long time ago, when I started at UVM in 1992, a young representative came to me and wanted to see if we could get students involved in doing some policy research for the legislature. Hartford, right? Matt Dunn. Hartford.
Yeah.
Matt Dunn from Heartland was from Heartland at the time. And he and I worked a little bit on it to try to get this going, ran into some roadblocks. Ultimately, I decided to set it up as a class, a workshop class, where I train the students to do the policy research. They work in research teams. And so the training involves things such as trying to find the material you all are interested in, evaluating that material. For example, I don't let them put any advocacy group material in there. They can contact you directly. We're not going to carry their water for them, so to speak. And present the information that we find in a short, business-like document that is well documented with references that allow you to dig even deeper if you want by just going to those references. I've been doing this, I've been running this in a number of different ways since 1998. I've had a number of colleagues helping on the project. We had funding from the Jeffords Center at the University of Vermont for 2 years. The program seems to have worked quite well over the years. We've had a lot of good feedback from legislators who got the reports and were happy with what they had received and told us that it had helped them in the process. And so that's the program. I normally run it in the springtime during the session. And we found in doing that it's tough to get the turnaround time that allows us to get the information to you as quickly as you need to have it. In addition to that, in the College of Arts and Sciences, this program was started up to provide interns for the legislature. And what we did is we decided that after seeing how successful that program was and this program, that maybe there is a way that we could integrate them to strengthen both of them. So we did a little study of the programs. We interviewed legislators you all. I don't know if any of you responded to the surveys about how both of these programs could be improved. And two key things led us to make our changes. One is that you would prefer to have the Vermont Legislative Research Service, my program, run in the fall so that you can get the material in advance of the legislative session and there wouldn't be that time program. Two, the interns in Mrs. program could use a bit more training. Was another key feedback point from you all. So we thought it really made sense, given there's an intensive amount of training in the Vermont Legislative Research Service for that policy research, to do it in the fall, to train the students, and then have them act as interns for you, be available to intern for you individually or for a committee or for a caucus in the spring semester. And that way you have interns who really have a lot more skill than they have right now and be hopefully more useful. And then we in the VLRS, the research the students do, can get the material to you well in advance of the legislative session. Do you have, I don't know if you want to add in anything on that, sorry.
Well, so the way my program works, as you all know, is this is the third year, and the first 2 years were obviously during COVID, number one. So like Chair you had Peter, you had someone that was online the whole time while you guys were all online. It was very difficult, but we got through it and the students still had a good experience. This has been our best year, obviously because it's in person. I made some major changes. Instead of the students starting when UVM starts, which is usually the day after Martin Luther King Day, they now have to come back and start when you all start, which is a huge change. They have to be in the State House once a week for at least 4 hours. It's just a minimum. I mean, they can, whatever. They have to have a 3.0. They have to be a junior or senior. They have to make an agenda every week so you guys can keep track of what they're doing and what you want them to do, what they want to do. Anyway, it keeps you guys structured. So those are the major changes. The key for me is I could never have enough time to train them, as we were discussing. As the community assistants know, and some of you know, it's like drinking from a fire hose when they start. And these are, 19 and 20-year-olds, 2021. So it's stressful at the beginning. So this year I started them, they had to do a winter term, which means they had to start the day after Christmas for 2 weeks before Christmas. Between Christmas and the legislative session starts, and just do it online and give them information about how to track a bill, how to do all that kind of stuff. So this is going to be magical because not this year, but we're going to strongly encourage students to take the course. I don't know if I can require it, but I'd like to because we'll work on it. Sophia had some reason why, but so then they can maybe get little tidbits about what happened the previous session. They can learn how to like actually what you all do. Basically, you can imagine what they're going to learn. They're going to learn how to research. They're going to learn what you all do, what like constituent service, that kind of stuff. I mean, they won't learn it from him, but I can pop in and sort of give them the rigmarole because as a committee assistant, I'm well attuned to what you all need. Like I may not be able to do the policy that well, but I can sort of read your minds and figure out what will make your lives better. And that's my goal, is to treat you all like clients with my students, bring them up professionally as best I can, have them meet with you regularly, have them respond to what you need when you need it. They have to fulfill 200 hours during the session. And you have to meet with them once a week, at least once a week. That's required. So your requirements would simply be meet with them once a week for 30 minutes. I think a check-in during the week, like texting, like how's it going? Are you on track? And then at the end, I think there's a midterm. We're adding a right before town meeting day just to make sure, because sometimes kids aren't quite getting it. And I want to know. I want you to be able to say, this is not working, or tell me what I can work on, because that's the point right there where you know. And then they'll come back and then let's see, I think that's about it. Yeah.
So you did such a wonderful job on the details that I didn't fill in. So if I can just jump into the way we operate is we take requests from you. And it could be from a committee, it could be from individual legislators. It's assigned to a team, and then I ask the team to contact you to make sure they understand clearly what it is you're expecting from them, the type of research that you want, the information you're looking for. And they work in those teams, and because we're going to be doing this in the fall, it'll work out nicely that they can work over the length of the semester to really produce, the information that you're looking for. We do just try to keep it to the objective, nonpartisan side of things and leave the rest up to you as far as the information that we gather. What we've done and what we're capable of doing is a number of different things that you might be interested in, at least previous legislators were interested in the past. One is the state of knowledge in a particular area about a subject, and that can be in any particular area. Early on, we did something, for example, on the effectiveness of methadone. And so the students and I had to delve into the medical literature and make sure we had that right. Or, what impact mandatory sentencing, what does mandatory sentencing have on, recidivism and the prison system and so on. That's going to the literature, largely in sociology, for example, and digging in what have the studies of the scholars and that the people are experts in that area, what have they found? We also have a fair number of experts at the University of Vermont, and I like to think of us as kind of the doorway into that expertise. And so I will send the students to my colleagues who have expertise in the different areas. So for the sentencing, mandatory sentences, the students pulled together a report, and I said, before we send this to the legislators, I want you to go see Professor Kathy Fox, who's a national expert on the area, and she was able to review it. And so the legislators got the expertise of that colleague of mine in basically in the report, not her writing, but she vetted the report basically. In addition to that kind of thing that involves scholarly or area expertise from there, we can also look at what other states are doing or localities or governments worldwide if that's what you want to find out. In a way, I modeled this project early on after the National Conference of State Legislatures Legisbriefs that they used to produce. Still produce those. I used to get paper copies all the time of those. But the idea is, with those legisbriefs, often it was, well, what's going on in the other states? What practices are working? What practices are not working? We can do that kind of research. I've had students get on the phone and call legislators or call administrators in other states on particular programs to get their information on how those are operating to put into their reports. We can also we've done some direct collection of original data as well. So way back in 1998, I think the first semester I did this, we had the ice storm, which totally devastated the maple sugar industry. 98. Is that what I said? 98, yeah. And we had requests from the legislature, asking, can you contact the producers and find out what they need from us to help them get back on their feet after the ice storm. And so we made direct contact, so we can do that kind of work as well. There's some limits on it, but especially given the whole semester, we should be able to reach out and contact people. We've done that, for example, on drug prices. We had one team calling around to lots of different pharmacies to find out the price of a set number of drugs in order to get the comparison for the legislators. So that's how we do it. We produce, we try to provide a condensed documented report for you in collaboration with you, working with you to make sure they're getting the information that you're looking for. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes we can't really dig up the information. We had a request for how states are handling ancient rights of way, for example, a while back, which if you do searches for ancient rights of way, you get pagan rituals. And it turned out the only thing we could find was New Hampshire, some things that took place in New Hampshire, because Vermont and the new Northeast is kind of unique in the sense that we had been so developed, deforested, and then things grew back that most other states were not dealing with this issue of roads that used to exist that, still the state had rights to or whatever. So that's kind of my spiel. I would also like to know, plant the seed. If there's research the committee or you as individuals want us to do for the fall, I can take notes on that right now. You can email me. I'm also going to bug you back as we get closer to the fall because I want to make sure the students have enough work to do.
I always think it's a great idea. Like you guys get so many reports and I don't know how often you have the time to read them all. And you could potentially say to a student, could you read this and summarize it for me, please? And, give me some bullet points.
I like that idea.
I know. Well, I mean, to me, my dream is to have two interns for every committee. That's my big picture dream.
My dream is that
Wouldn't that be great?
And my dream is that they were trained by the DLRS.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
that's kind of where we're.
Right. And then they would be able to work with all of you. I mean, it would be like, you would have to okay it. You would assign someone to be the mentor like Stephanie is with House Commerce. She's been doing it for 3 years. It's very successful. She's always very happy. I don't know. I mean, it's just great. But anyway, so I can talk to you about committee. There's caucus. We can give students to caucuses. And then my way is I work all fall to try to drum up the students. That's the hardest thing is when we don't have enough students. Like last year we had I had 26 students and I had like 40 people that wanted them. So it's tough. So I will email you guys in the fall. I'll say, now's your time, send in an application and be really specific. Like I want this kid to only do track, S5 or whatever it is. And I'll do a how to host an intern session so that I can bring everyone up to speed on how we do it. Tasks, they can attend meetings, hearings, caucuses of your interest or their interest, because sometimes you're just focused on one thing and they'll be like, can I go to this? And you'll say, sure, go to it, take notes on it and tell me about it, because I would never know about it if you weren't there. You get very tunnel vision, I think, so not in a bad way, but I sometimes think of them as sort of, they're your like if you're in where are we? Agriculture. Go to the Senate match and then they spend their time in there. Just like your own lobbyist, kind of how I think of it. They do policy research, track legislation, do bill summaries, constituent services, resource lists, data, read and summarize reports. They can help with newsletters. They can really help you prepare for town meetings. I love it when legislators take the kids to the town meetings or take them to their district. It's a real mutual beneficiary experience. So yeah, go.
So in the House Judiciary Committee yesterday, when I talked to them, they had a bunch of research they want us to look into, and then they asked whoever does that research, could we hire them as the intern? So that's another way that could be handled. If a team's working for you and you really like what they're doing and the quality of the work that they do, you could think, can you intern for the committee the next, during the legislative session?
Yeah. So you may want two, or you may want none, or you may want one, but we do the best we can. It's very hard to match. Obviously, we try to see what you're interested in and what our students are interested in. It's like dating, it's tricky. But we try to take it very, very seriously, and they take it very seriously. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wonder, Jack, are these reports public or
Yes.
on request?
On our website, in fact, if you want to see all the work we've done in the past, you could go to the website. The number of topics listed, you just pull down the menu and you'll see a listing of everything we've done. So there's an agriculture tab, pull it down, you can see everything that's done. Some of the older reports, I've been clearing those out a little bit. They get out of date after a while. Sometimes you might actually, and it's, one of your colleagues suggested to her colleagues that, it's actually a pretty good library to take a look at. And you might find something that's, 10 years old and you might ask us, could you update this? So for example, there was, rock slime. I remember we did a piece on rock slime a little while back. And then about 5 years later, I'm listening to VPR. What we call it now. Sorry. I'm in that group. We don't like the name change. But anyway, can you tell I'm a professor? I go off on the side. I heard some new science and I was like, that report's out of date. They have new science that suggests that what the old science was pointing to had changed and that there's new research that reflects it. If you want us to redo that. The other thing is, I forgot to mention, a colleague of mine is really excited about joining me in this again, and we've expanded our capacity. We're both doing 5 research teams. His expertise is in environment and energy. So he's going to take on those and I'll do all the rest. And the other thing that I didn't say is, when we do these reports, we limit the number of teams because this takes a lot of faculty time. It's not like students writing a paper and we just grade it and pass it off. We're reading everything that they cite in the documents to make sure they've got everything correct. And I've had some cases where I was really glad that I actually have done that, including one article that was reissued that in the conclusion of the article, the author said, we're often misquoted as saying this, and that's exactly what the students had when they read it. Because they had gotten it from a web summary of the article, and I pushed them, read the articles, go to the original source. And so we do spend an awful lot of time. We have the drafts and redrafts of these pieces. They go through at least five redrafts. I try to make sure they don't get discouraged on the first feedback because I use track changes in Word and the document is just not recognizable by the time they get it. But it's a great experience for them. And a lot of them have parlayed that into jobs, including one just hired by the Michigan Legislative Research Bureau. We had one go off and work for the NCSL. And one who's working in DC who did one on vaccinations a while back, and she got hired by the American Academy of Pediatricians. And she told me, I'm now training students and my interns to do what you trained me to do. So it's a really good experience for them. It provides a service for you.
I would say that I have your backs. I mean, my number one priority is to make sure kids get a great education, but I am also kind of obsessed with making sure that you don't have to work hard at all. I'm here once or twice a week. I want you to come to me as soon as something goes off and I want to know about it and I'm going to smash it down and get it right because you don't have time. So I am the liaison. And I always have people text me, right? Didn't we do that? Wasn't I trying to so I really try to make sure that it is work a little bit. You have to meet with them. You definitely develop a relationship. You have to do an evaluation at the end. And they're only college kids. They are not professionals and they're learning it really quickly. So you have to have a little patience, but ideally every kid has to do 200 hours. That's 200 times like when you were doing it, we had 40 kids. That's a lot of time to fill to raise you guys up.
Is that how many it was, 40 this year?
I had 40, no, last year and the year before. This year I only had 26. But what was great, I'll tell you this really quick, committee interns. House Commerce has for the last 3 years successfully worked with interns the past 3 years. Representative Jerome was the designated mentor, chair must agree and appoint a mentor. Representative Dolan and Houghton, Brown and Brady, Garofano and Dodge, they worked in teams. And so, it's like I can spread the interns more. Caucuses, Representative Hango had, she had 2 kids and Representative Burke had 2 kids for climate solutions. So GOP caucus, nonpartisan also.
We're starting to.
Oh, we're done.
No. Representative Lipsky, we have time. Okay. Representative Lipsky.
It's okay.
Thank you, Senator.
It's all.
A couple of questions. Doctor, this is quite a service. Is there a cost to legislators who reach out to you?
None whatsoever.
There's no cost, but I'll put in a plug that we're hoping someday to be able
Donations or-
to pay to pay our interns.
Well, we do work for the University of Vermont.
Yeah, we're a land
The
grant.
idea is,
Yeah.
exactly, this fits with our new president's, view of land grant mission.
Yeah, we're
So,
Then my second question has to do with your relationship as the VLRS versus the intern program. Your training helps prepare and you work on curriculum and skills. But yeah,
I'm just a get stuff done person.
but when you talk about interns for committees, there are 2 dominant parties in the building, and then there are 3 people who are not affiliated. Then for the 3 independents specifically,
Yep.
they don't have support from
True.
either moral, emotional, intellectual.
It's very interesting. Yeah, it's a good point.
Social.
Maybe,
So,
Yeah.
I'm not looking, and by the way, we're sort of we're a homogenous
I know.
group. But with that said, it's distasteful for me to try to steer anyone who has their own ideology.
Kids have issues with that. It's tricky. It is very tricky for me sometimes to get students to work on opposite sides of the aisle than they want. The smart ones realize how important it is to see through other people's lenses. And that, I think, is a critical lesson for
So
the kids.
in my case, as the final follow-up, is that is one individual worthy, an individual representative worthy of an intern?
Oh, yeah. You have to be organized, a little bit organized.
Back to the partisan issue, the value of going through the training of the LRS is, I really push them to put aside all of their biases. I actually train them on psychological traps that people fall into, including students, in terms of confirmation bias. You can't just look for material to support your perspective, which the internet is so great at helping people do these days. And so the training in this is really just what are the facts, what is the science, what are other states doing, not, with no agenda in terms of pushing things. And I keep a close eye on you. We did a piece on legalization of cannabis and the effect on safety on the roads, for example. Given the reputation of the University of Vermont, I was on them to make sure that all of their sources were legitimate and that they put together a solid report, and actually got really good feedback on that report. So those students trained that way come to you, you're looking for the factual information. It shouldn't be a problem whether you're a progressive, Democratic, Republican, and independent.
It shouldn't be. I mean,
We do we get the information and leave the party stuff up to you. And the students should know what their role is.
for me, it's a little more intense because.
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah, it's definitely different.
My campaign was born out of a non-binary approach to how we move forward as a society. In the political binary, it's not neither or.
And also, we sort of feel our way through this program. We have 180 different personalities. It's,
Right.
we just have to, I just say, check your brain, you've got to figure out what you have in common and work there. And just, you have to figure out how to communicate. That's like literally the most important thing is how are you going to communicate? When are you going to meet? That's the hardest part. And then you just take it from there. You're like, you take this bill, I'm going to be on this bill, or I want you to follow this all the way through. He's going to make a tracking thing. And you just have to have a antenna out for what you want the student to do.
Thank you.
Representative Templeman and then Representative Cole.
A continuation on this line of, the alignment issue, like where you find yourself on the political spectrum and then who you're coupled with as a rep. I have noticed a certain amount of matching going on. So for example, Lisa Hango, her two, were both kind of leaning on the right, just like,
Oh, no.
well, that's what they told me.
Charlotte and Olivia?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No.
One of them identified themselves as
No names, please. No names.
Oh, sorry. One of them identified themselves as a Reagan Republican or something.
Okay.
So I mean, which kind of aligns with
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering if there's an attempt to make an alignment.
Yes.
There is.
There is an attempt, not an alignment as much as it is, maybe it's a connection. So I ask all students when the kids have to apply, they have to, what do they have to do? They have to apply, they have to go to required meetings before they even register. They have to do a lot of things because it is a huge amount of time for them. They've got to get down here every week. They have to be committed and understand what they're getting into exactly. So when I interview them, I always say, are you willing to work for a different party? I always say that. And 80% of them say no. And the 3 that said yes, I'm like, great, let's go, match them up.
I almost feel like to fight polarization, we should Should not ask that question, just force them into a
I
different
know.
situation.
Well, I've had
but
students,
yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest, I've had students say to me, I can't. And I'm like, and it's their, this is their course, it's their money going into the course. I kind of have to, it's very tricky. I have kids that write, well, yeah. So it's just, I'm constantly sort of like managing it and making sure to try to make sure everyone's getting what they want out of it and not trying to make too many waves. I try to be a little bit invisible, but supportive. And the kids they're there to learn. So I always say to them, go talk to your legislator and ask them why they did that or I always want them at the end of their, like, what did we do last week? What are we doing next week? What are important dates? And then I always say to them, just ask one question off piece, like whatever it is, just to give them a little. But I try to be equal measure. And I do, as I said, how to host an intern, because there is sort of a way to do it. And also all these people, you guys see all these people, ask them how they do it. If you're interested.
Cool.
Did you mention there was a stipend for the position, right?
No.
Oh, there is.
There's no stipend.
Okay, just-
I've been talking to UVM to see if they can figure out if they can ever get money to pay the kids.
Well, they do have a summer grant program that if students are interning over the summer, they can get grant money from the college.
They can, like 2,500 or
Because
3,000.
when I was chair of the department, I had some money, I set aside some money for students doing actually legislative majors, maybe. Well, political science majors, actually, three of them this summer got a grant that helped provide them with
3 or 4.
a bit of money, especially since they have to pay tuition in summertime. So
Like a lot of kids are wanting, a lot of like House Commerce wants someone for the summer. And I'm like, love to, but the kid has to pay for the course to get the credit. So it's just a little puzzle.
Representative O'Brien?
I was wondering, do some of the research students take advantage of UVM extension? Because like, especially in this committee, we're always impressed by the research they do.
anything that's available. So I think like we did a piece on neonicotinoids a while back and they went and I sent them over there to talk to them about that. So
It's
again.
not just here, they'll go out in the field,
Exactly.
do like
Yeah.
first person interviews.
Yeah.
Right.
So are you meeting with as many committees as you can?
Exactly.
And just to circle back then, it would be helpful if anyone is interested in having research done in the fall, which is new, it has been in the spring. So we as legislators would need to be thinking now or sometime before the fall anyway.
And I'm hoping that this, between the two sessions of the biennium, that, there are a lot of pieces that didn't get all the way through, that you're still considering, that'd be a sweet spot for us to hit any, areas you might want some research on before you wrap things up in the next spring. So yeah, just email me. There's also on our website, there's a form you could click on. And if you have any ideas right now, I'd be more than happy to hear them.
Yeah, I've had legislators asking me and I just.
Send it over to Jack. Okay. Well, we'll maybe later today or next week take a few minutes in the committee just to think about, go over what you said and see if there's any ideas, and maybe collectively we can come up with, do a little brainstorming and come up with some suggestions.
Yeah, great. Thank you for your time.
Yes, thanks for coming in.
Nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.